your chance to know. Let me show you why. Let me show you why. Let me show you why. Let me show you why.
Here on the Humblest Opinion, season 1, episode 1. I'm sorry, episode 2 of our show. Here we talk about Pan-African comedy, culture, world events, so on and so forth. Myself being Tony Bahama, am here with Malik Adagamba as our resident guest here on the show. So, without further ado, of course, we're gonna get right into some of the news and aspects that are affecting here in globally. Before we do that, though, just want to do a little disclaimer, and of course, give some informational points on, of course, what we're doing here. First things first is the Humble Opinion is sponsored by AB2C Broadcasting, B-Caribbean TV, and Professional Renaissance Protection Services Limited. Our disclaimer says that the views and opinions expressed are those solely in ownership, management, and talent, and are brought to you via an at-will clause or via a pay-per-view subscription service platform. Your listening and or viewing is agreement, which makes you complicit in this broadcast and moves all liability from our platform 100%. Just so you know, AB2C Broadcasting, the news and radio is the internet radio station for you, and we are always on, and you can always be connected. The copyright for this program is 2021, and all rights are reserved. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And today's topic, basically Caribbean specific, is elections. Whereas, we're going to talk about it today. Can you hear me clear, brother?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, man. Let's go.
Good. So, just people say the silly season, but at this point in time, things have kind of gotten a little past silly. There's a lot that's been going on globally relative to elections and processes and things and such of the nature. So hopefully we have enough time to touch on some of them, trying to give most people that are listeners our worldview or a few points on some of what's been going on. So follow us as we travel around the world with this. Firstly, we want to jump right in and talk about, as it relates to the Bahamas or the Caribbean, or most people in the Commonwealth of Nations or Commonwealth. Simple fact of the matter is you do not have freedom of choice. You do not have full voting rights, and you do not run the country that you're probably in. This might come as a great shock to most people, but that's just the simple fact of the matter as far as how democracy, communism, feudalism, whatever system it is that you're existing in right now, it's not set up that way where true democracy can and is shining through. So just an example relative to the Bahamas, which is, how should we call this, brother? What's the term? Because it's not independent.
We call it self-governing. They say it's independent. They say that it's a sovereign country, but it's not. True sovereignty lies in you being able to make all of your own decisions without checking with anybody. So we are self-governing. We're not independent.
Perfectly stated, and perfectly 100% factual and true. The Bahamas, if they were self-governing or really independent per se, there would be no need for a governor general.
Nope, because the governor general is higher than the prime minister.
Correct. And there would be no need for a prime minister. There would be a president.
Yes.
Correct. So
yes, correct.
This this fallacy, of election and independence and majority rule and throwing the mace out the house and then marching and rioting, the Burma Road riot. What are we talking about here? What a sham. And they got me too. When I was younger. I didn't know no better. You go to the tattoo and you watch them spin around in a circle and you watch the dogs come out and
It's quite a show. It's quite a show.
Then you eat conch salad, or I don't know, you dress up in the beautiful Bahamian colors. No knock to the country, but it's just not independent. So to have independent services, or they have a service on Sunday, and all this whole spectacle that takes a week, a couple of jungle rush outs, which we enjoy, but it's not an independent country, and the conversation has to be had at a different time about what that is, but it's not that. So just to put that clearly, and this comes as a great shock, to most people, just based on the structural understanding, which I specialize in, of Westminster politics, having this social and political, I went to school for some of this, just knowing this, looking at it, I realized when I was in college, this is not what it is. So first and foremost, you're not free, you don't run the country. So get that out your mind,
No.
Secondly, the most pertinent laws in the Bahamas, which have been brought to the people as rules or things that actually happen throughout the history of the Bahamas, have never been voted on in a singular voting fashion. Never. So, go with me on this, brother. Hotels. Were you able to vote on whether or not Atlantis was coming or Bahama was coming?
No.
Okay.
We were informed.
Okay, you were informed that this was what was going to happen.
We were informed, yes.
Okay, so now we have a couple of port agreements. You have the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. You have the Arawak Creek Agreement. You have the Salt Bay Key Agreement, or whatever the agreement is that's down on the port in South, where all the salt is in Miagwana and Agua.
Right.
Did they come to your house and your door and say, what's your vote on this?
No, there was never a consultation.
Okay.
In all honesty, with most of these things, we were not even aware of what was truly taking place, other than the construction of. Now the latest port.
In Ilutra, right? Ilutra Andres?
No, Arawaki.
Correct. Yes.
Arawaki. What they did was they made you feel as if there's a big difference between shareholder and stakeholder. We don't have to get into that right now. But
right.
They made you a shareholder. Okay. So they took a lot of the people's money to fund certain things, but you're not benefiting anything really from that. Now the stakeholders, that's a different story altogether. All right. But at the end of the day, you still weren't asked if you would like it to be there. It was just simply, this is what's going to happen. And you have the opportunity to put some money in if you'd like.
That segues perfectly into our next issue. And we got to go down the line just simply because on all these issues relative to the Bahamian people, and most people that are Caribbean, or most people about the diaspora, Black, African, whatever else would be, we have to mention these things because it bears stating. A lot of educational systems, I won't name them here, but college or high school or primary school or tertiary, these things are not taught. So we have to name them specifically. We talked on hotels, no. Port agreements, no. Oil, were you consulted? They never came to me. I don't know. They might have missed my house. Did they come to you?
No.
Okay.
Then
the hot topic.
They missed everybody. They went temporarily blind and was unable to see anybody.
Understood. The hot topic now is natural resources. What that all entails is the sand, which people do not know. The salt, the sand, the limestone, which is extremely valuable. The aragonite, some basic, from studying our research, to some basic mixture that aragonite and or salt on our sand is basically part and parcel to every phone, electronic device globally. And it's an abundance of all of this throughout the Bahamas. You have the Salt Bay Keys and the southern Bahamas and Agua and Mayaguana and so on and so forth. That's just one of it. There are also natural resources that we can also talk about is the sun. A lot of people don't know the Bahamas has the number one. When you go outside, you stand up in the sun, you feel that heat, and most Bahamians grow up with that. Most Caribbean people grow up with that, but that solar radiance is world class. The people are world class, and that solar radiance is world class, So basically on the research that they've done, it says that the sun, that a solar system or solar power grid can get the most out of the spot where the Bahamas exactly is. That's a natural resource that many people haven't tapped into. Also, we talk about the current and the riptide. That's something, whereas if you do hydroponics, if you're doing things that's underground, where agricultural or water-based electronics based on the current. If you go on the Satan side, Lutra or Andros or Abaku, the current can get you.
Right.
And that's really, really strong. But most people don't know that in itself as well is a resource if properly used. Just asking, did they come to you? Did they talk to you? Because, they miss me.
Well, they miss me too. They miss me too.
Okay. Even as far as the media, we have a lot of foreign companies. We have, even as far as the bank, those banks, we have local Bahamian banks, maybe. We have the most struggling banks and who they are. I can't call their name, won't call their name, but we have a lot of foreign direct investment banks where they hold your money. Let me come to your country and hold your money. That was basically the conversation. We didn't get a chance to vote on that. I don't think my Grammy them had a chance to vote on it, or my great-grandparents. These are things that are relative, that would happen in a democracy. Just to go down the line and cut this short, we said, cloning and medical industries and medical things have been happening in the Bahamas and so on and so forth. The first sheep ever cloned was Dolly, and it was cloned in the Bahamas. Nobody asked the Bahamian people, did you have or want this sheep to be cloned in your country? Did you want this research to be done?
Most people were not even aware of it taking place until this date. Most people are not aware that it did take place.
Correct. So, we got IMF decisions. You have taxation, the VAT, or whatever else it was. Hey, let's try to see if we could take this loan. And then eventually that loan didn't work out, or the payment didn't go forward. And then now you have to pay it back because the taxation is this. Was it most payments weren't consulted on the initial, taking the initial loan, and then they secondarily weren't consulted on the taxation on the VAT.
We're still not consulted on these loans. These loans are announced. So how is it that you are free? How are you not a slave? We need to understand who we are. How are you not a slave? Right? How are you not a slave? If someone can say to you, hey, we just took out a loan for $615 million. All right, to do this, to do that, and the next thing. Now, they don't say you are the ones who are paying it back, but we know that we are the ones who pay it back. Okay, so how are you not a slave? How am I not a slave? If you could tell me what you're going to do and then force me to pay and force me to pay back something that you have borrowed for whatever reason without consulting me. If I wasn't a slave, you would have to ask me, hey, listen, man, this is what we need. We see it to be necessary. What do you feel about this? Because we can't go forward without your say-so. So obviously you're being swung into the mentality of that they work for you because they don't. If they did, they would have to ask you.
Correct. 100% correct. All these different things, even simply put, let me go a little bit more through this. Health vaccinations. Did they have, because I know now they have a COVID patrol, right? They have that, right?
Okay. Right.
So
of course, yes.
The COVID patrol coming around taking votes and saying, hey, would you like us to introduce these vaccinations to the country?
No, of course, hell no. But here's the difference here though. in this particular time, and it's not justification, it's just saying what it is. In this particular situation, right, we're under martial law. We're under an executive order. So during an executive order, they don't have to ask you anything. They do whatever they deem is necessary. Now, the first thing you have to do, the first thing you're supposed to do is prove that you are under an emergency, that an emergency taking place, and this is the reason why what is happening simply because of the fact that they had to justify putting in these executive orders in these various countries that have agreed to it, because everybody is not a part of this thing. All right. And we can see the differences with everything that's taking place in various countries, but that's a different show. What it is at the end of the day is that because we are under the executive order, they are able to just tell you what they want you to do, and you don't have a choice. All right. According to the executive orders. Now, the only way for something like that to change would be for everybody to rise up and say, hey, we ain't into this. Okay, y'all ain't making no sense. What y'all are telling us, we do not believe. Okay, show us the proof. As a people, we're not asking for that. You know that we are one of the best trained slave countries in the world.
We're what you call neo or Westminster system democratic, if you want to put it.
Yes, but the reason why I say that we are one of the reason why I say we are one of the best trained slave systems in the world is that if you go and you look at our record worldwide, we have more people that sign up to and come out to vote in this slave process than most countries in the world.
Interesting.
And we don't and we do not have uprisings like, man, listen, these people is carry on bad in places like Jamaica. Okay, I'm talking about where we talking about cut-ass and deaths taking place during these times, right? Now, that's not to say that they are doing a better job at the process because the people ain't on that run. No, that's just how well behaved we are. That we just line up and do what we're told. We don't ask no questions. Okay, so we're one of the easier countries to have this executive order take place with, because there are very few people who are questioning, and even those who are now questioning the vaccines and COVID, right? They're not questioning it to the point of uprising because nothing is being said to be mandatory as yet. And
the neo-colonial term.
Yes. You understand me?
This is diplomacy, I guess. We are the most diplomatic.
Listen. I wouldn't see, the thing about it is this, because when we start using the wordage, right? I mean,
we have
the bottom line is
we have to mention what they're saying and what we would call it, because
exactly, because at the end of the day, we're just well-behaved slaves. That's it. Period.
Yeah.
Okay. Because even if there's some grumbling in the market, there are very few people who are literally physically going to rise up and say, I'm not taking in this, and whatever we have to do to stop this, let's do it. We're not those people.
Right. And even as it relates to all the issues, even let's just say in an election in a fully democratic, independent, sovereign country, you would have a referendum, you would have a conversation, you would have a vote or something relative to issues such as cabinet appointments. Countries. This is how it works in a democracy or in proper
in a real and true sovereign society. Yes.
Correct. How it should work is if we've had recent news that somebody, those that shall remain nameless. Either resigned or fired
or forced to resign. Either they resigned or they were forced to.
Whatever the scenario might be.
Yes, whatever the scenario is.
In a sovereign country, there must be a by-election. There must not
Yes.
be any appointments. You don't hold on to power in the senses of balance or figures.
Right.
So if
Yes.
I should say I'm a leader of this
Because
country and someone in my
exactly.
cabinet or minister just left or had a problem or resigned, then I'm not able to then to fill that seat, because that position is not mine to fill. It's the people's. It's the
Because
sovereign country.
because it was an elected position, not
Thank you.
a right. No, no, not an appointed position. See, the thing about it is
Thank
this.
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
how our system is set, right? We because of us being under the Westminster system. Okay.
Yes.
And this here is where a lot of people go wrong, I guess, with the
Lose.
understanding of it. You understand me?
Right.
Because we're under the Westminster system, and if we weren't under the Westminster system or a cabinet government, right?
Correct.
Then
correct.
we
Correct as
wouldn't.
such.
Then we wouldn't be in the position that we are in, because other countries, as you stated, even let's just take for example, even America, okay. Those areas that were actually elected. Here's where we go wrong. Our government is elected, so whoever has the most votes runs the government, and they choose who goes where. And that is the reason why they're able to just slip and slide with people in there, because you didn't actually go to the box and say, I'm voting for the Minister of Immigration. I'm voting for the Minister of National Security. I voted for PLP and I voted for F&M. So whoever's in charge under Westminster system, they have the ability and the opportunity to do these things. Let's take,
Winner
for
take all.
example,
Winner take
which is
all.
basically just a glorified seat. All right, because they don't really do nothing. They don't have the authority to challenge. They can make certain amendments, but they ultimately still have to pass those bills. So they are people who are basically just being paid or rewarded for whatever reason, okay, by because everything is still under the advice of the Governor General. So that clearly shows you that you're not in charge, because the Prime Minister can say, I recommend this amount of people. The leader of the opposition can say, I recommend this amount of people. And then they have about 3 or 4 that you can come together, that they must come together, both of them, and say, we recommend. But at the end of the day, it's still the final choice of the Governor General to say, yes, these are the people who we will allow to be there. Okay?
And on that same note, on that same note, even in the system that is American or neo-Western, which is America and other countries, even after appointments, even after the recommendation of the ruling party or the ruling class, you just won the election, there is still individuals that are submitted, and they must go before at least a judicial review, at least a public outcry to say, hey, let us try to put this person feet to the fire, not after they did mess up or steal money allegedly.
Right.
You know, let's look at their track record. Let's put them in front of congressional hearing or
that's
public
not the
hearing.
Bahamas.
Exactly. And it's not most countries. But even so, let's just see what this person's track record was. Let's put this information out there. You know, you still might have the majority of the seats to vote and push the individual through, i.e. a Clarence Thomas and so on and so forth. But, you know, at least there was some review before, and not, look, man, this my boy, this my spa, this my homie. Let's go and try and just, hey, you come be the minister of such and such. You know, what about the employees in those specific ministries? What about the employees that have been giving government service for a long period of time? What is do they just stand, oh, well, hey, you know, well, this one coming who don't know nothing about this? Well, this the minister of sports. This person never run in their life. This never run, jump, kick a ball, do nothing every day in their life. They have no business experience. They have no this or that. We just gonna take them because they say given to us. This person with national security,
and that's basically exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. I mean, whether they like them or dislike them, they just simply take it because that's how things have been running. And those people come and shake up that area sometimes, or sometimes just come and do nothing and collect a salary.
And honestly, at this point, we've grown, because generally relative to most political elections and the whole phrasings of most countries, COVID-19 and other pandemics and so on, or pandemics, or whatever it is, something exists here, whereas the election and the governmental bureaucracy structures seem to be swinging in far extremes from left to right. You have some things that have happened. Very rarely do presidents not win a second term. If you had to look at the United States, the president did not win a second term. Much to the chagrin of individuals storming the Capitol, which was a planned insurrection, and based on his sedition and so on and so forth. But it was a planned action. It was a planned movement, to make this all happen, so forth and such in kind. So with that said, this is what people are seeing. The history, and even in the Bahamas, the last 3-4 elections, it swung drastically. There's 5 years here, 5 years there. Most countries, even in Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, so on and so forth, it's one way, one party, or we tie to them this, and then so on and so forth. So that shows that people are restless, per se, on what is exactly this party doing. They not trying to waste 10 years of their life. People aren't trying to see, well, hey, let's get them another shot, even though they didn't do it. That is not how things have been working as the purpose of elections. People are restless in a political agreement, and their political trust is waning. So not saying that people have understood or even looked at issues such as sports, as gaming, national selections, local elections, like for presidents of the committee of basketball and baseball and so forth, gambling, gaming, they all never came before a single vote. Do you want this? Because that is how that would happen or work in a truly sovereign and independent country, because the people are the most important pertinent natural resource. So that's just
that is what I would love to happen, and that is the point that we truly need to get to at some point, because the only way that you're going to be accountable is if you are truly accountable. See, we're under the false assumption that these people work for us when they don't. They are only subservient to and looking for those people who fund campaigns and the actual crown that's running the country.
Correct. Right? Correct.
So at the end of the day, the reason why nothing is ever really done for us, because they're about us. Even though we feel that it is, it's really not about us. So
correct.
Here you have a situation where somebody's voted in power, and in 5 years you see all kind of foolishness taking place, and you can't have a by-election. Then you're not in charge. Okay, why should I have to wait 5 years for you to rob the kitty, which is what they all do? Okay, to enrich themselves, step out, they're straight, we're not, okay, and put somebody else in, another group in, for them to do the exact same thing, and it works the same way. If we
correct.
were in charge, as you said, these deals, all of these deals, and there's so many, okay, that have taken place and that do take place, and you'll be amazed at what's taken place under the banner of COVID in many countries during the course of this time, all right, that have been put forth without our say-so, without our knowledge.
Right. And
all right. So we need to get to that point. We need to get to that point, because it should be where I can vote you out. And if I have to vote you in and vote you out, you're going to be accountable to me, which means that if you're not doing what you're supposed to, I'm supposed to be able to say, listen, we got you. All right. You have people who be afraid for their jobs in other countries, not in Caribbean countries. They ain't afraid for their job. Once they should, at least until the next election. Right. And unless they're fired by the leader or the executive branch of their party.
But even then, even during that 5-year period of time, we do not have a system. And it's not, when I say we, I mean any of us. It's not where you Trump has done some things, just to use it as an example, even during the time frame in power. If he didn't like somebody in that position or something didn't work or whatever, laughably, he got rid of the FBI or the Department of Defense secretary multiple times to stop investigations or impede investigations or so on and so forth. But he had that power to remove it, even in the sense of what's actual democracy or actual fairness or actual where your vote actually mattered. Voting would be pertinent. There would be nothing that would move and or happen without the people say so. And that is not what we're experiencing. So,
No.
I don't want to, belabor the point. Be talking quite a bit of time, but just want to let that be said because nobody seems to want to say this. Nobody seems to want to study this. I've studied Westminster politics. I've worked in it. You have experience in the same matter. This is not your vote counts, or how should I put this? Your vote matters, and your vote counts, but that's a subjective thought process in some framework. So that's first and foremost. Now, as far as the elections, because it is the buzzword around the world and around the country and around the globe, let's take a look at some other examples of elections that's been happening, so forth and so forth, relative to other countries. Our nearest neighbor or the nearest neighbor to the Bahamas, we of course know was supposedly one of the most controversial elections in history. It's probably about the most second, or maybe at least the first, where a faction that was on the losing side or affiliated with the losing side did storm the Capitol and they tried to and then stage a coup d'etat, or basically taking over power and placing in power to someone that they decided or wanted to be in power or in charge. So that has never happened prior in American history. And it did take place on January 6, 2020, after a Donald Trump speech, which could be deemed as sedition. We have some information here. Sedition is defined as the conduct or speech of inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. And that is by definition what it is. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just reading a dictionary. You can go and read the dictionary too. This is what it says by the definition. Insurrection is a violent uprising. People were killed on the events of January 6th, 2021. People were hurt. Rising against authority, the police officers were killed and or hurt, or army or whatever else it was. Those individuals were put in duress or danger. Based on the definition of insurrection, that did happen and did take place. So there's no debating. There was not any conviction drawn on this, but, there's no debating that this, based on the definition, is what happened and took place. Secondary to that, we had, if we want to go to as far west or far east, say Myanmar, in the opposite spectrum, a coup d'etat actually did and is taking place, which many people don't understand or know, where the Myanmar army or the Myanmarian army did take over and detained what was supposedly the winner of the election. That individual has still been on house arrest, and the state of martial law has been declared as we speak. That individual is still under house arrest. The army claims that, the powers that be or the person that won has had voter fraud or, did some things to so on and so forth that has changed the trajectory of what would have happened. So now you have a dynamic there where the army or the military is fighting against the president in the first one, or the ruling party or the winning party. Then you have, of course, in America, you had a small faction against the army and or the government, so on and so forth. If we want to go to our brothers and sisters of Africa, we can look at the Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe did, quite a bit of the foreign things that could be considered objectionable or just frowned upon relative to the process of democracy or proper freedom, or basically just not taking into account, as far as most people know, the people in his or her their country there. Sixfold in our point, or fivefold in our point, is Mugabe denied foreign election observers, meaning nobody else was able to come and look and see how this election was supposed to be done. He also shut down the internet in the entire country for the period of time, which right then and there for me gives me a red flag. It's what's going on. And then there's also had widespread voter registration was stopped. So, not saying that, we've heard some rumblings about that, well, here in this country or in other countries, but that's what happened there. Also, he denied the opponent and likely winner movement. Bobby Wine was placed under his house arrest, for almost a month, even a few weeks after the election was over. Most people on the same night had Bobby Wine ahead by couple million votes. And then they went to sleep and then woke up, and Mozavingi declared himself as the winner of the election and basically told the people that they should stop counting votes, which allegedly, like I said, I wasn't there, but this is what the reports are saying. He also denied the opponent from hosting rallies on the premise of COVID-19, which is a slippery slope. But this is what happened. And then just of note, 3 of the last 5 elections that he has had representation by the other party or opposing party, the individual leading the opposing party has either disappeared or been exiled. This happening in Uganda. Then just, our neighbors to the south, or the neighbors in the Bahamas to the south, Turks and Caicos having a full sweep. The previous election, Premier Charlene Cartwright Robinson of the People's Democratic Movement, which bears a lot of ideological similarities to the ruling parties and a lot of center left or center right movements that are in the Bahamas and everywhere else. They won it in what would have been a double landslide or slide, winning 10 seats to 5 seats in 2016, and then they lost to the this time in a 14-1 margin, meaning they only have 1 seat to the Progressive National Party.
One person opposing. Yep. One person opposing the entire government.
The entire government will represent that. And that 5 years later, you win 10-5, and then 5 years later you win 14-1. Not sure what's going on. Which also, just of note, the Turks and Caicos is not an independent country. They do have a premier. I'm not sure even if they have a prime minister. I don't think they do, but it is the difference in the extremity of that, or the extremities of that. Just wanted to mention all of this relative to what's going on, because the Bahamas, which we are now talking on, is coming along pretty soon, supposedly in election. And, any thoughts on this factor, being on the ground there? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, right now, I would say there seems to be more talk, but around election time, there's always talk about putting in some independent candidates, right?
Okay.
But on election day, you hear Darrell Miller saying 1, no votes. So I don't know exactly how it's going to end up turning this lap. But
you cut another second. Hold on, you're trying to chop it in and out.
All right. You were earlier as well. I don't know if it's the service or
might be the service, but let's continue on with it. Maybe it's the internet connection.
But all right, I'm still on. I said, as I was saying, we have the party seems to be, from the talks on the ground, seems to be on the way up. We'll see what happens with that. We don't know yet whether it's going to be the number 2 party or if they're going to be some independents with a shot. But this country has almost always been a 2-party system, almost always, regardless of what they say. It's usually one party or the next party.
Your mama vote PLP, your mama vote FNM, your grandma vote FNM. Use FNM too. Use PLP.
And what is so sad is this: we live in a world where people want new clothes, new shoes, new phone, new laptop with better features. I mean, like as soon as it comes out. But we live in a society where they want to deal with the same old system. And doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results is the definition of what? Insanity. All right. So at the end of the day, we are a country of insane people because we're still going to the same people expecting for the structure of the system to change. The structure of the system cannot change when the people who you're putting in power are benefiting, because you continuously see those who advocate against it become advocates for it after they've come in, because it benefits them so much. It benefits them so much.
Correct. It has like I said, I am not, not the preeminent voice on politics and so on and so forth. I have some experience in it, and so does my our guest here, Malika Gama. But it's just something, a bit of a somber point here, that elections are coming up, but in some countries and in most places they actually kind of, it matters, but it does have a it's not representative fully in most processes of the people, and that's a bit sad, bit sobering of a moment, relative
yes, because
to
the people, because the people feel as if they're the ones who made the choice. Yes, you made a choice, but regardless of who you chose, the only difference with parties, the governing parties of this country and many small countries that I see, is the difference in certain people's pet peeves, pet projects. Correct. Okay, that's the only difference, because whatever the system wants to take place is going to take place. As long as these people are in power, they follow the instructions that are given, and that is the reason why so many things take place and we have no say in it. Now, those people who, if a particular party is concerned about planes and helicopters and washing machines, then they're going to sort those things out. Okay, right. If the other party is focused on customs duties and concessions for the hotels, then that's what the focus is going to be on, simply because of the fact that they might now have a hand in the game, and they want to make sure that their situation is protected. But other than that, whatever it is that was going to take place basically takes place. All right, and of course it's run, as I said before, by the people who fund the election. First and foremost, this is the reason why you could have a referendum that went in a different direction than you thought it would, and it still got passed.
Despite it being voted down or voting in opposition.
This is the reason why certain things like that could happen, because of who funded them. They had to make sure that the debt was paid, right? So you can have those kinds of things taking place in the country. All right. This is the reason why we have this.
Yes, right? yes.
So that's what it is.
We have solutions. I have solutions. I'm assured, everybody has solutions. But from studying what was our political leanings in the country and relative to most countries, I do have some studies that I do, but I definitely would not offer them for free on this platform.
And I agree. Here's the saddest thing. Right? And I see it happening in our country and other countries often. You would have studies done by private individuals or entities.
Correct.
And private reports issued, whether it's in school, especially in the college, right, or submitted to the government or particular parties, party members doing certain things. Those people would not be given any credit to it. Actually, would be shut down. And then a few years later, you would see it come back, rewrapped and stamped with a different name. Okay, and they act as if it's brand new. Nobody ever told them this before.
The FNM
manifesto, and our copywriting laws are so sucky that at the end of the day, you wouldn't have been able to win that in any event. You would have to have been intelligent enough to make certain that you were copywriting that in the right country And here's the thing. There's very few new things under the sun. So it's not as if you invented the wheel. You took a policy or procedure that you saw taking place in someplace else and tweaked it a bit. So it's not even really yours to be able to sue for, because they could have found it the same way you did. But that's what they do, because we really listen. One of the main problems with our country is that there's no innovation. The same old drones are pushing the buttons. So you have new things that could come around and do certain things, and it's only one of two things that take place. Either they're never implemented because it's not beneficial for them for things to move smooth and easier, or they would implement something and get it started and then leave it right there. So let's just say they say we need $10 million to do this particular project. They'll get the things they need, and that'll be stocked up inside one storeroom. All right. And then they take the rest of the money and split it up. But the project
i.e. the supplies that came to the Bahamas from FEMA, right? Just like the supplies that came to the Bahamas.
Just one of the things. Okay, just one of those things. And that happens every time we have some sort of disaster, natural or man-made. Okay, it happens all the time. People will donate because that is the nature of good-natured people to try to assist. But that money that they're saying is going to an accredited organization is never handled the way it's supposed to be. There are supplies from the Dorian situation that have been thrown away. They never issued most of that to the people who needed it. There are still people living in tents on these various islands when they have supplies, building supplies that they have not distributed to certain individuals.
Wow.
This is the kind of country and world that we live in, and it can only be that your intention and your plan is to keep the people down. Because if you were truly about helping the people, as soon as you got those things, you would have made certain that they got sorted. No, you made certain that they got so pissed off that they stopped even looking to you for help. They had to go within either themselves, if they had the money, or come together as a collective and make some things happen for themselves. And those who were unable to do so, they still living and suffering through these hardships. We have other islands.
But yet we have ministers allegedly using government funds to build their own house.
These kinds of things are not new. It's just that some people are so slack and also are so hated by the people who work for them that they are reported on. But these things are not new. You know how many ministers, you know how many ministers have shares in or own complexes or have buildings in certain complexes that they make a monthly fee to for whenever they're bringing people in, and the fee is paid whether somebody comes into the country or not.
Wow, I can assumably see that. I definitely can see that.
Okay.
There's fact and documentation on that.
These things are taking place. Okay, and in my humblest opinion, that is terrible. Okay, that we live in that kind of country. But what I'm saying to you at the end of the day is that these things are not new. They've been going on for a long time. And now that we're in the age of technology, more information is being released. So people are now seeing what's going on. And you have some people who've never done this before, because most of the people who've been elected are not qualified to do the job. That's the first thing. So they don't know what it is that they're really doing. So they don't realize with the necessity of covering their tracks. And they feel like it's the same thing as it was before, where it's so easy for them to just do whatever it is that they want to, and no one's going to say anything, that they're just, they're just doing these things and feeling, okay, I have this position, so I could do whatever. No, you have people watching you. Okay. And because of the fact of the age of information, they're able to take a copy of the forms that you have on the table. They can snapshot the email that was sent or the WhatsApp chat and spread this information around. They can do these things.
And it's sad because it's leading. Yeah, it's sad because it's leading to a general brain drain, and all the intellectual properties and the intellectuals of the country kind of want to look elsewhere, because you're going to be valued in a different sense. I've worked on some political campaigns here in different places in different countries, and the response that I've gotten in retrospect or even in comparison to my own country is all these countries, it's just that vastly different. And then you even have the government or certain groups from last individual country that have they had people on staff as consultant paying them $10,000 or $10 million or $20 million or so on just to come and get in to help them get elected, whereas you have the same finest and the same people from your own country that have the same expertise. But that's neither here nor there. To each his own. The proof, like you said, is in the pudding. And in my humblest opinion, these individuals are not qualified. A lot of them, whatever party they might seem, vast majority of them aren't qualified to even hold office or run to office. And then there isn't any school, that most of them would go to kind of build the next leadership or so on. So that's that. I guess we are a comedy show, but it is comedy, Pan-African comedy and social movement. But this is something that bears necessitating or needs to be said in these episodes here. Just to take a break from that, we do have to pay a few respects to our sponsors, which is they have sponsored a all expense paid trip to the Canary Islands. Today's recipient is the Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, from numerous Caucasian majority institutions, having to apply for tenure. Cornel West, for those of you that do not know, is one of the preeminent scholars, supposedly, in quotation marks, of African American history and or culture. He's taught at Yale, a majority Caucasian institution. He's taught at Harvard, a majority Caucasian institution. He's went to the University of Paris, a majority Caucasian institution, and Princeton, a majority Caucasian institution. And now he's being denied tenure, despite being a PhD and doctor, and of course being one of the preeminent people in on the issues of African American and Black history. So it's just kind of sad to me, and why he gets our Canary Islands trip this year. Today is because after all this knowledge, after all this studying, after all of this reading and learnedness on African American histories and plight, this man is still begging white people for their approval. To us, that's sad. Tell us your thoughts. What do you think about this?
I can say definitely 100%. I consider that to be very sad, because the thing about it is this: if you have truly done real research into your heritage and your roots, then you should understand that you are a king. You have God within you. So why are you begging anybody for anything?
Right. And then think about this. Let me state this again. One of the preeminent professors and teachers of African American and Black history and culture has only worked at white institutions.
And that and that right there shows you where the head is, because at the end of the day, they are probably most likely giving him more, just a higher salary. He's getting more funds, all right. For dealing with these things. And then, because anybody who understands the true plan and propaganda realizes that these people, if you are a champion for the cause of your race, then they're going to either defame your character,
correct,
or you become a martyr by them taking your life, or they do to the other side. And once they've brought you to the other side, then you now have to be a champion for their cause, more so than yours, because you have to justify why you are there.
On that same note, Dr. Cornel West is married to a a Slavic or European individual. So you just want to put that out there to state that for
and see that right there shows the mindset, because if you are black thinking, then you're going to try to procreate for your race and not somebody else's. All right. As once we know what is going on, and we are truly about black unity, black power, black growth, black education, then we know that is never a wise choice or a wise move. All right. So we've had some of our greats make those mistakes, many later in life after certain things have been done. But the fact of the matter, all know, all right, that shows a certain level of brainwashing when that happens.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It shows a level of brainwashing. Okay. I feel like he's showing us who he is, man.
He has shown us who he is. Dr. West, your flight will leave at approximately 1:00. You can report to the airport for your all expense one-way trip to the Canary Islands. Because come on, really, as learned a man as you are, learned as an individual you are,
and as usual, there's only a carry-on allowed, eh? Okay,
one carry-on. You don't get to bring much. You don't get to bring your white wife. You don't get to bring her.
You don't get no, nothing. So, just get out.
So, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This has been just our humble opinion. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to hear it. Matter of fact, this is not for everybody. This type of thought is what we think is just the conversation or the initialization of the conversation on, our liberation, our movement, our media, talking about elections all across the country. We did go to Myanmar. We did talk about the United States. We did talk about neo-colonialism, democracy, or self-governance, and so on and so forth. Please. We did touch on our neighbors to the south in Turks and Caicos and Uganda, even as far as in West or East Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for tuning in to the Humblest Opinion, or the Humble Opinion, with our guests here, Malik Adegamba, and myself, Tony Bahama, the host. Ladies and gentlemen, it is sponsored and brought to you by AB2C Broadcasting, B TV, and of course, Professional Renaissance Protection Services. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We did bring up some points, and all we ask is that you just think about what's going on around you.
Right. Namaste to the room. Everyone have a great day.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you. Join us next time.
See, there we go. I know destination, you never been there before. Oh, no reservation, come on, let's go and explore. If you never know before, well, it's your chance to know. Let me show you.